In these current days of electrification and automation, it's always refreshing, especially as an enthusiast, to drive something that is meant to be driven. Now, recently Honda has introduced us with the all-new FL5 Civic Type R, which is supposed to be meaner and even better than the FK8. And right off the bat, after the past few days with this one, I already like this one more. So this Type R in particular is a 2023 in Championship White. This is one of my favorite colors on the Type R, but if I was to get one for myself, I would go for Boost Blue, because I used to have a Voodoo Blue Toyota. Just like the previous gen Type R, the FL5 is only available in one trim level with a starting MSRP of just under $44,000. This one, as it sits, is sitting at about $45,000, but I don't think you'll ever find one for $45,000 because everyone is putting markups on these. But what really makes this thing competitive is the powertrain. This is an absolute monster that is ready to compete with the likes of the GR Corolla, which the GR Corolla is still the love of my life after driving this car, and it's only because it's all-wheel drive and the sound, just the experience is different. I won't talk too much about that, but let me talk about why I love this car. So this is an absolute dime of a motor. There are no hood struts. Oh my God, it is hot. This does not have hood struts, but the hood opens you up to see the K20 C1. It's a 2-liter turbocharged and direct injected 4-cylinder. It uses VTEC, of course, but not iVTEC like the other Hondas. In this application, it makes a mighty 315 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Now, those numbers are a little bit better than the FK8, but not by much. Honda does say that this engine is supposed to feel pretty different compared to the old 2-liter, so we'll see in a moment. But this is only paired to a 6-speed manual transmission, the Lord's transmission, a front LSD. These are only front-wheel drive. Honda claims 22 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, and a combined rating of 24. Those are really good numbers, especially for the performance, and it isn't that painful to fill this up because it has a small 12-gallon fuel tank. It's made it more pleasurable to put gas in this, especially putting 93 in it. Honda does say that you can put regular in it. I don't know, I would put 93 in it. Now, with that powerful K20 under the hood, you have to slow down at some point. Honda puts 2-piece rotors and Brembo front calipers on the Type R, which really work well in all kinds of applications on the street. I can't say much for the track, but I've been super impressed. You'll also see that these come standard with 19-inch wheels compared to the FK8 that had 20-inch wheels as standard equipment. Those tires would always blow. This one, I'm glad it's on 19s because it rides a little bit better and it still handles just as well. It's also crazy to me that 19-inch wheels look kind of small on a Civic now. Honda also puts damn good tires on these with a square setup of 265/30 R19. I personally think I'd put a 35 series tire on it just to have a slightly thicker sidewall. But if these black 19s aren't cutting it for you, Honda does offer a 19-inch multi-spoke wheel, which I kind of like more than these actually. I commend Honda for giving the Type R a rear wiper. I like rear wipers, especially on hatchbacks, but this does not look like a traditional hatchback. It looks more like a liftback to me, and I kind of wish it looked more like a hatch, and it would really make that rear wiper come to use. The Type R does come with this standard rear spoiler. It's not adjustable and it's black. The Type R also has its famous 3-exit exhaust. The Integra Type S also has it, but it's slightly different size. This isn't loud enough, especially for being a Type R. The Integra Type S is actually a little bit louder than this. You can hear a little bit of the sound from outside, but in the driver's seat, you really can't hear anything. Now, because the Type R is based on the normal Civic hatchback, it still makes it an excellent daily driver. You have about 24.5 cubic feet of volume with the second row folded up. It's a decent amount of space and it is a little bit bigger than the Civic sedan. Just like all other Civic hatchbacks, this one has that sliding tonneau cover that you can switch sides on. Very useful. There's trunk lights in there. As I would expect underneath the floor, the Type R does not come with a spare tire, but it does come with a pump and a can of Fix-A-Flat, which don't use that. There's not much other storage underneath the floor, but to get more storage, you can fold the second row seat down with the little levers back here and get up to 46 cubic feet of volume, which is pretty decent and class competitive as well. The floor doesn't fold completely flat, but it makes it damn practical for something this fun. And adding on to the practicality and versatility of the Civic Type R, I would personally go to the lengths to putting a roof rack, well, crossbars on my Type R, on my Boost Blue Civic Type R. Does anyone else like roof racks on cars? Getting inside of the rear seat is pretty easy because the door opens pretty wide, and getting in, I mean, of course, the car is pretty low, but it's not too bad at all. And as I close the door, you get a nice solid thunk. Material quality in the back, you definitely know that you're in a Civic and you're not as thought of in the back seat compared to the front seats, because this has a red interior and only the front seats are red. The rear seats are not red, and that kind of bothers me, but you do get red seat belts at least, and 2 cup holders in the middle. Unlike the normal Civic hatch, the Civic Type R is only available as a 4-passenger car. There also isn't an armrest for the rear passengers in the Type R. This also lacks rear air vents, no USB ports in the back, and of course, you're not going to find heated rear seats. This is really how you can tell it's a driver-oriented car. At least the 2 outboard seats in the back are comfortable. I'm 5'9", and I have a decent amount of legroom. I fit behind myself, I can fit my feet under the seat, and headroom is pretty decent as well, because this one does not have a sunroof. You can't get a sunroof on a Type R or an Integra Type S. But for what it is, it's pretty accommodating. I'm just sweltering back here because it's almost 100 degrees. So let's get closer to the AC. Now this is the seat I know you've all been waiting for me to get into, because that means it's, well, first closer for me to get into the AC, and also closer for me to drive this and show you how much of a monster this is. But as we get in, the car has a song for you, and it has a nice solid thunk on the door. As I feel the materials up here already, you can feel it's softer material up here, but this is not a premium car. It's more stripper spec than anything compared to a Civic Touring. Also, as you get into either of the front seats in this, you cannot help but notice how supportive and how much you really feel like you're in a race car in this. They're actually pretty comfortable. This is not a one-size-fits-all type of car. If you're around my size, this is kind of the largest or the widest you can be, but if you're any larger than me or have huger shoulders, you really are going to find yourself a little bit confined in here, but I personally like it. The front seats are not heated. That is something to take note of, but that doesn't really bother me. The suede and Alcantara in this really keeps me warm as it is. And speaking of being warm, let's turn the car on. But this is the key fob for the Type R. This is Honda's, newer key fob. You put your foot on the brake and the clutch. Well, you can just put your foot on the clutch, but foot on the brake and the clutch, and press the start button to go. Thankfully, Honda does keep it pretty nice up here. They've done a really good job with the interior of the 11th gen Civic. I, of course, always mention the long flowing air vent that goes all across the car. Of course, in front of the passenger seat, it's not an actual vent, but it looks cool, the honeycomb design. And you can see this Type R is number 636, so it's an early production. Well, kind of early comparing to the ones that are sold. But looking at the wheel, it's a 3-spoked leather-wrapped unit. It has red stitching on it, special for the Type R. There isn't a Type R emblem, but you do have a red Honda badge. Let's listen to the horn.
Seatbelts, everyone!
But there's buttons on either side of the wheel. The left side buttons control the audio and Bluetooth controls, also voice control, and you can also scroll through some of the menus on the gauges on the left side, and those buttons on the right side control some of the cruise control and other Honda sensing features, and the scroll wheel on that one configures the right side of the gauges. Now, as we look up to the gauges, it's a fully digital unit. It looks really good. Honda's been doing a good job with their gauges, and I'm glad in this car they're actually kind of customizable. You can see a lot of information in them. This one, being a Type R, also has a shift light on it, which is very cool. Makes you really feel like you're in a race car. And when you put yourself into plus R mode, you can see the S2000 style gauges, which look cool. But this does have a few drive modes, and it does have adaptive dampers that adjust depending on which drive mode you're in. But this has a few modes varying from comfort, sport, individual, and plus R. Individual just lets you customize the car to how you like it. On all Type Rs, the headlights are automatic, but not the windshield wipers. I appreciate that the front two windows are one touch up and down, and the rear windows, they open fast enough so it doesn't really bother me. Looking at the infotainment screen, this uses Honda's 9-inch display. It is touchscreen, thankfully, using Honda's latest version of their Honda Link system. It's pretty snappy and pretty responsive. I like what Honda's been doing with their infotainment systems. This has built-in Garmin navigation as well, and of course it uses wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The Type R also comes standard with the 12-speaker Bose audio system, which I'm glad that Honda has moved away from their premium sound system and they're moving to an actual name brand like Bose. It actually sounds good in this car, which helps me listen to my reggaeton even better. Of course, because this is a Type R, there's a special Type R information screen that shows G-force and all kinds of body movements, and you can time yourself. Interesting, there's all kinds of data that you can track in here, but it's stuff that I wouldn't use. This is a driver's car. I appreciate that Honda kept the volume knob, and there's a tuning button right under that. And even though they're not real buttons, I appreciate that Honda adds a few hard buttons at the bottom of the screen so you can go to the most accessible things. When you put the car into reverse, this has a backup camera, of course, and Hondas have been really good at their backup cameras. This has 3 different views. It has a normal view, a wide view, and also a top-down view. The Type R also comes standard with rear cross-traffic alert and also a blind spot monitor. Down below you have dual zone climate control, and the AC really works well. I always have to commend Honda for how nice they make their knobs feel. Everything in this car feels great. Things feel very well put together. The knobs feel great, the buttons feel great, even the way how you move the vents. Everything feels like it was just meant to be. Underneath the climate control, you have 2 USB ports, only USB Type A, so Honda has not switched to USB Type C in these at least. This also has a 12-volt power outlet and Qi wireless charging. Unlike its main rival, the GR Corolla, the Civic Type R retains an electronic parking brake. The GR Corolla has a normal handbrake, but the Honda shifter is really something that sells this car. It is so precise, feels great. It has a fantastic amount of mechanical feel while also feeling very refined. It's great to just bang gears in, and it's also great to putt around town in, but you never really putt around with this car. Behind that, there's 2 reasonably sized cup holders, and the armrest itself is reasonably soft with some suede on the top with red stitching, but it reveals a pretty small amount of cargo space, well, carrying space inside the center console, and there are no USB ports. But let's see if the glove box makes up for it. It does, because it's reasonably sized. And of course, I'll mention it again, this does not have a sunroof, and you can't get a sunroof on any Type R. So like I said, gassing this thing up really doesn't bother me because the tank is so small. I just put 15 bucks in it of 93, and that gave me just under a half tank. Sure, it does go out, you know, depending on how hard I drive it, it'll go, you know, relatively quickly, but it's miles per gallon with this car. Around parking lots and in other small spaces, this is pretty easy to drive, just like how other Civics are. And even though this is manual, the clutch is very light, the steering is very quick. It's so fun, even when you're driving it slowly, but this car begs to be driven quickly, so we'll be doing some of that today. First of all, I want to show you guys this Camry. I hope you can see it. It's in my local area, and it's something that I've wanted to review. I like them a lot because it's a V6 XLE. So if you happen to be watching this video and that's your car, I want to review it. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. So even in comfort mode, it is a little bit stiff, and if you want something a little bit softer, I definitely go for the Integra, but God, this thing is an absolute rocket. It is so fun to drive because you can put your foot down and then this thing goes like a rocket, and the shifter is so good. I'm gonna put myself into sport mode because I will be trying to beat the other 2 lanes, but that should be no problem in the Civic Type R. This thing is an absolute riot, but the only thing is with this car, and with cars like this for me, I am constantly like, oh my God, am I gonna get in trouble for driving this quickly? But that's why the corners are much better. But I turn off auto rev match. This car does have it. Like, it is just such a fantastic powertrain. I really let the car speak for itself. And it handles so well. I've not even gone in R mode yet. I'm going to save R mode for the back road. But let's get on the power. It absolutely soars, and it really takes corners with such authority. You can take corners at such speeds, you know, that normally I'd be like, oh my God, this is, you know, too fast. But this just really handles like it's on rails. It really has more power towards the middle and the top end in this. There is some nice low end grunt, but this really just picks up like once it builds boost. So because I've had this for almost a week, I've been daily driving it for the most part. I still have a daily to reveal to the channel, but why would I say no to driving this? This is absolutely fantastic. But I have been daily driving it, and I will say it is pretty livable. It is stiffer than the normal Civic, but because this is such a high caliber car, in terms of Civics at least, wow, they're tearing that house down. Oh my God. Anyways, but in terms of Civics, this is stiff, but because this is the type of car it is absolutely acceptable. In comfort mode, it does soften up just a little bit. It doesn't really get that soft. One thing that you'll notice is the road noise. Hondas usually do have road noise, but this is a little bit louder just because it's on Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, which is absolutely worth it. It's worth the extra few decibels for the amount of grip that this thing has now. It's absolutely insane. You really do feel like you're squeezing the power out of it because the pedal really just makes it go. The response is insane, and it gets even more responsive in sport mode and also in R mode. And I also like that you can hear the turbo, but this thing is a rocket, and it really enjoys being at higher speeds. It's funny, and it loves revving. That's something that I love about these Hondas. These newer Hondas, well, some of the newer Hondas, but older Hondas, this really feels like it's, you know, gone back to its roots. I will put myself into R mode, and we're gonna slingshot down this. God damn, that's crazy. But you can also see how much how stiff it gets. Turning in is so quick. Oh, good brakes. The Brembos really do work. And the clutch is so nice, the clutch and shifter combo. You do have to hold the wheel. Honda did put an LSD in this. Oh my God! That's crazy! It is so fun to drive, man. It is so fun to drive, but this does have an LSD, but you still have to hold the wheel because any high-power front-wheel drive car is gonna try to fight with you. Oh my God! We're gonna see the turning radius here. Because it's front-wheel drive, it's not bad, but, you know, again, this has these big tires. God, the road is bumpy, so I won't be flying on it just yet. But, oh my God, there's not one time, like, if you're having a bad day, just put your foot down. The car will take care of you. The car will absolutely take care of you. Gosh, it's crazy how fun this thing is, man. And I turn off the auto rev matching. I'll always say that. It is very helpful, especially if you're learning how to drive manual and if you want to understand what rev matching is, but I don't know. I feel better without rev matching. Gosh, man. It really does feel like a race car, especially in R mode, because the seats are absolutely insane. So we're gonna be on a run right here. My goodness! Wow! It loves to rev, and it grips. I'm not going all the way out because I do respect that there's other people on the road. And, you know, there's crosswalks. So I am a responsible fast driver. But God, this thing is quick! Wow! God! And the brakes are so good. They offer so much confidence. God, it is quick! Wow! Wow! And it corners so well. Okay. I pretty much never floor it anymore in first gear because it really does spin. Goodness me! It corners in so nice. It is so direct, so planted. Oh my God! Oh my God! First of all, if you recognize this red Honda Fit back here, you're an OG of the channel. I'll already say that. But in focus of the Type R, it is such an excellent vehicle. It is so visceral. It really gives you a communicative and one with the driver type experience. It's really a car that I recommend people to drive because it has so much grip. The engine loves to rev and it constantly asks for more out of it. It's so good. And it is worth the money. So really it comes down to personal preference. Now me, even after a week with this thing, as much as I really like it, I still have love and goo-goo eyes for the GR Corolla, and that's just because of its powertrain. I like the all-wheel drive system, and I like that it's a real all-around, all-weather type vehicle. This one kind of is too. If you put snow tires on it, I'm sure you could get it through the winter perfectly fine. But I hope you guys enjoyed getting up close and personal with the all-new FL5 Civic Type R. I hope you learned something, and I hope it was enjoyable. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I will certainly miss it when it goes. But thank you for watching and experiencing this car with me today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye peeps. I'm gonna go drink some water.